Hi everyone. I sincerely hope that you are all safe and secure and healthy considering everything that's happening with the coronavirus. I was originally planning to continue from the last video and talk about the next steps in auditory and music processing in the brain, but it seemed more beneficial to touch upon how we process emotions, especially fear, which I imagine we're all feeling to some degree in response to this dangerous virus and the overwhelming uncertainty about the future. So today we'll talk about the nervous system and how it detects and responds to danger in the environment, and about music and its ability to induce a whole spectrum of emotions, as well as its capacity to perhaps help us find a few more moments of calm and more of a sense of safety. We'll begin by talking about survival. So throughout the evolution of organisms on this planet, those that had a danger detection system were more likely to survive and reproduce. In fact, when we look at some of the simplest life forms, something like a bacteria, we see that they have systems that help them to detect harmful substances in the environment and to respond adaptively to avoid danger. We also have a danger detection and response system. And we can classify emotions as an integral part of that system. Emotions being the response of our brain and body that happen unconsciously when danger is in the environment. They also arise when we detect safety or pleasant things too. And we can distinguish emotions from feelings, which are our conscious perception of emotions, or when we know or become aware that we feel something. So what's happening in our brain and nervous system in response to something scary? Let's look at how the nervous system is organized. We call the brain and the spinal cord the central nervous system, and any neurons and nerves outside of that are part of the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system can be divided into two parts that really help us out when responding to the environment. The first part is the somatic nervous system, which controls voluntary muscles in the body, like when we want to move our fingers to play piano or guitar. And the second part is the autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary functions, like our heartbeat. The autonomic nervous system is further divided into two parts. The first part is the sympathetic nervous system, or our fight or flight system. And the second part is our parasympathetic nervous system, or our rest and digest system. We can see here that in both these systems that neurons and their axons connect the brain and spinal cord to various organs in the body, including the heart, lungs, and digestive tract. They work together to maintain balance, or what we call homeostasis. We know these systems well, as we can easily recall scary situations where our hearts began to race, we began to sweat, our breathing became fast and shallow, our muscles became tense, and we may have even frozen or wanted to run away. Maybe there have even been moments in the midst of this pandemic where you felt some of these things. These responses would have been a result of the action of the sympathetic nervous system. Alternatively, you might be able to recall moments where your muscles have felt relaxed. Your breath was easy and slow to a point where you might have almost fallen asleep. Say, when being held by a loved one or when listening to music that relaxes you. This would have been thanks to the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system. These systems are under the control of the brain, primarily through networks that contain structures that we'll mention a bit today. And it's worth noting that researchers are still trying to figure out how these structures and different brain areas work together to produce the complex spectrum of emotions and feelings that we experience, as well as our diverse repertoire of behaviors. If we peer inside the brain, we can see a group of structures that have traditionally been called the limbic system. Limbus in Latin means rim, And we can see that the limbic structures form a ring around the corpus callosum, or the thick bundle of axons that connects the right and left hemispheres of the brain. We can see a structure called the thalamus, which relays sensory information from our bodies about the environment to different parts of the brain, including some structures we see here. It sends information to the amygdala, which helps us in responding to fearful situations. In fact, there's a patient called SM whose amygdalas, remember that we have one in each hemisphere, deteriorated due to a genetic disorder. SM seemed to not experience fear, even though she could experience other emotions. She understood the concept of fear, but when placed in dangerous or scary situations, she wouldn't be scared. In fact, she sometimes approached them or seemed amused by them. For example, she was brought to a pet store and readily held snakes, and even asked to hold poisonous ones. She showed no signs of fear when taken to haunted houses or during horror films, and she can more often find herself in precarious situations. Even though fear is an unpleasant and uncomfortable feeling, it's so important to our survival. So the fear you may be feeling in response to what's happening in the world right now is perfectly normal and it makes sense. However, when we stay in this state, it can become a problem. We can see another structure called the hypothalamus that sits above the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus also receives information from the thalamus and controls the release of different chemicals from the pituitary gland. These chemicals affect our body and tell it how to respond. For example, these chemicals might increase our heart rate and breathing rate in order to prepare us to run away. Or they might slow our heart rate and breath, relax our muscles, and stimulate our GI tract in order to rest and restore ourselves. Some of our responses are also regulated by a group of neurons in the brainstem. And finally, some of that sensory information sent to the thalamus is then relayed to the cortex, where we become aware and conscious of what's happening. And it's at this level that we can make decisions about how we might respond. When our sympathetic nervous system is activated, it can have far-reaching and long-lasting effects. When we're under chronic stress, that can lead to a whole variety of health problems. So if you're feeling like it's hard to concentrate, hard to remember things, if you're feeling unusually exhausted right now, it makes sense. It's likely due to the response of your sympathetic nervous system. I know that our culture is obsessed with productivity. There's a whole stigma around it. We can feel guilt and shame when we're not being productive. And I'm just here to remind you that it's important to take rest. It's essential. I give you permission to take care of yourself. I know that sometimes I need to say that to myself, or I just need a friend to remind me of that. Luckily, we can avail ourselves to resources that help to reduce the effects of stress. Music engagement has been shown to induce emotion, in particular, emotions that lead to relaxation and feelings of safety and connection. We can readily recall some favorite songs that may calm us, or even remind us of a loved one or a beloved place. Music can affect heart rate, respiratory rate, perspiration, and other autonomic function. Preliminary studies have also shown that music may promote increases in neurochemicals related to social bonding, while decreasing those related to stress. I'll link some helpful studies and reviews below if you're interested, and I hope to do more videos to dive deeper into these details. Music therapists intentionally utilize the various elements of music to affect the nervous system of patients and clients in order to help that person create an experience of relaxation, safety, and connection. So I wanted to offer some music today in an effort to take a pause, a break from stress, a moment to relax. One familiar form of music for most of us is the lullaby. Lullabies have been used throughout history and across many cultures to help our little ones calm down, even induce sleep. They're typically in 3/4 or 6/8 time to help create that rocking feel. They tend to be repetitive, slow, soft, and tender in quality. Sometimes we don't even sing the words, and instead we hum or we use nonsense syllables. Sometimes the melody conveys a feeling of longing or lament, and even though sad, it's pleasurable. We typically use them when we're holding our little ones, safe, close, and connected to us, especially through the music. So I wanted to share a lullaby that is special to me, in the case that it might allow for a moment of relaxation, of peace, of safety, things that we all need right now. Feel welcome to grab a blanket or a soft pillow, a beloved object, maybe even a little one if you have them. You can lay down or sit in a relaxed position. You may even want to close your eyes. And as you listen to the music, try and see if you can allow your breath to change in whatever way it likes. Maybe following along with the music in some sense. You might even think about a person or a place that helps you to create that sense of safety, peace, and love. It's so important to rest in these days if you can. I wish you and your loved ones safety and health. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, please feel free to post in the comments below. Please share some of your favorite songs that help you to feel relaxed. as well as other ways that you might cope with stress. And in the meantime, happy sciencing and happy musicking. Ciao.